the assembly. My name is Dr. Dia Olade. I'm the CEO of Platinum Sound Physicians and Associates, and the CMD of Cyril Platinum Group. So the assembly is actually an initiative of the 97 set to encourage group learnings and in different fields, and also to help people, to give us an avenue to be able to share our views while seeing each other and talking to each other. So the main edition was on finance and economics and business opportunities during and post-COVID-19 pandemic. This theme is actually about global pandemic situation, which is COVID-19, because we are also going to be discussing other health initiatives. So this is actually about insights and analysis of the impact of pandemic and strategies on how we will survive in an African economy using Nigeria as a case study. So at this point, I would like to introduce the speakers. They are three fantastic professionals. The first is I'm going to introduce them according to how they are going to be presenting their presentations. Dr. Irene Zegon is going to go first. He's a senior registrar in pediatrics and a member of the West African College of Physicians. And he's going to tell us or taking us through the therapeutics of COVID-19. His slide is actually a very interesting one, and he's going to give us a general overview of what we should be expecting during and post-COVID-19. The second speaker is going to be Dr. Chike Wangu, my respected colleague, and he should be, we are glad to have him on this platform. He's a public health expert, and he's also a member of the American Public Health Association. He'll be telling us how we can be safe, and also debunking some myths that a lot of people have been carrying around. Dr. Chidima Orapala is going to round up with COVID-19 and your mental health status, because we know that COVID-19 has actually been like this. So what we're going to do is we are using Nigeria as a case study, and I want to use this opportunity to tell everybody that we have not come here as professionals, we have come here as friends, and it is also very exciting that every member of the panel is actually a member of the 97 class, which is amazing. So the panelists actually know that we are going to be using layman's terms, because we don't want to confuse or convince anybody. And this is not an avenue for us to also deal or speak about any conspiracy theories or why the borders were not closed early. We're going to be talking strictly from a medical perspective. Now, there are some ground rules. Firstly, each speaker has about 10 to 15 minutes for their presentation, and their slides are going to be displayed on the screen. Secondly, like I said earlier, all panelists should try as much as possible to be as layman as possible, because most of the people in this meeting here today are not medical practitioners or medical doctors. Thirdly, the question and answer sessions are going to be moderated by the host, and the questions are going to be asked as on the first to come service. So anybody who asks the questions first will direct it to the person that you've directed the questions to. And we also advise that anybody who's asking these questions should include their names behind. In conclusion, I think I would like to give Dr. Arinze the ground if he's ready for us. Are you, Dr. Arinze? Dr. Arinze?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you. Good day, classmates.
Okay.
My name is Arinze Anthony, a senior registrar, like the moderator had already introduced in pediatrics. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys on the therapeutics for COVID. but it will have an overview picture before we delve into the therapeutics proper. So we're going to use the following outline. We're going to talk about the COVID microbiology, just as displayed on your screen, pathophysiology, then we'll look into the therapeutics proper. And then with the therapeutics, we'll go through the steps, the general protection, the pharmacology, immunology, and then herbal remedies before we talk about the vaccines. So next slide. As a form of introduction, we all know that COVID disease is a disease caused by the most recent coronavirus, which is in microbiology code name SARS-CoV-2, which means severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. That means there's a coronavirus 1, and of course, there might be also a coronavirus 3 coming up. That said, we want to look at their family. They are all members of RNA viruses called the coronavirus family. And other members of the family would include the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus. If you remember, there was this period when the Middle East was ravaged by this virus, MERS, and also SARS. That was back in 2010, 2012, 13. SARS will mean severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. That's the first SARS-CoV virus. Then COVID-19 is caused by the CoV-2. And also the ancient family member in this group is the common cold viruses, the one that gives us the common cold we have, the catarrh and all whatnot. And bear it in mind that the common cold virus has various variants, you know. So the SARS-CoV-2 currently has about 3 strains, the A, B, and C. A was the one discovered in Wuhan. B got to, when it got to Italy, it transformed to B. And then C is the one that went to the Sahara Desert African region. Of these 3, the B strain is the most virulent. As you can see, the pandemic caused in Italy or Europe and US are more, what I call it, virulent than what is found elsewhere. So A, the one in Wuhan, wasn't as serious as B, and C was also less serious than B. The most important virulent factor these coronaviruses have is the fact that they mutate. They change their viral genome. And based on the fact that it's an RNA virus, they easily change the molecules that are attached to this chain, the RNA chain, and then mutate so that they can quickly and easily permeate their populace, their what do you call it now? The infective region, and you know, get people more infected easily than any other organism you can have. Now, a little look at what the virus looks like. It has an outer envelope with projections that gives it the crown or the corona. What corona means is a crown that gives it the crownish look. Then it also has what we call the protein receptors sticking out from these crowns, like a shell or a bottle top on the projections. It also has a hydrophobic, sorry, that's a typo, hydrophobic bilipid layer. What that means is that that layer does not allow water to permeate through it. So if you wash your hands with just water, you're not going to eliminate this virus from your hand. Then a central core containing the RNA molecule. Next slide. We'll have some pictures to demonstrate what I've just said. This is what the coronavirus 2 looks like under the microscope. And compare it with its sister virus, the MERS. You can see there are striking resemblance between these two. The bottle top-like thing on the outer projections, like I've said, is found in the 2 of them. Then the greenish in the MERS and then the white in the coronavirus is a hydrophobic bilipid layer. On a dissection level, you now have the virus looking like the third picture. That is what it is like. You see the innermost core, the RNA, the genetic molecule that is found right within the viruses. So when that's the one that keeps changing, the RNA. Once this changes, a new strain comes out, and the whole, depending on what the level of resistance one has, the infection starts like all over again. This is the biggest problem they have in making a vaccine. Now, these viruses prefer very cold and dry areas and are very much heat intolerant, so they don't like any form of heat. This vital information will bring us to the point where we can, what we can do to prevent or treat these organisms later on. They all cause respiratory illnesses ranging from mild to severe and life-threatening, are seen all across the world. Common symptoms would include the sneezing, the dry, stuffy nose. Anosmia means the inability to perceive the smell or the odor of anything around you, sore throat, headache, and then dry chesty cough. Lethargy will mean tiredness. The infection is caused mainly by inhalation of infected droplets, be it cough, sneeze, even talk. When you talk, a few droplets of spit coming out from your respiratory system will carry these viruses and cause infections. On getting into the affected person, the virus migrates to the posterior ears, that's the back of your nose, and the sinus air cells, where you have the sinus air cells are around your cheekbones and then right in the middle of your forehead. These areas are almost always cool and dry. Air cells just remain empty with a tiny film of mucus, trying to, make sure that you're able to speak well. That's what most of the air cells does. It helps in phonation. So that said, where was I? When the viruses get to these parts of the body, they will cause the stuffy nose and then the sneezing and the sore throat. When along the line, when this infection is ongoing, you find out that they trickle down into the lower respiratory tract, infecting the lungs and the lower airways. Some people get to swallow theirs. A good number of people, those that don't spit out, will swallow their phlegm, that is the mucus coming from the nose or the upper respiratory airway. Those ones will now give you gastrointestinal, that's abdominal symptoms like vomiting, abdominal pains, diarrhea, which is rarely the case in adults. When they get to the lower respiratory system, they cause cough and headache. The idea of coughing is trying to see if one can expel the already infected phlegm or mucus from the lower respiratory system. Next slide. Next slide, dear. Now, this is trying to show the symptomatology of COVID-19. You've seen once this infection starts, the system will give you what? A fever. The body is trying to respond by increasing the body temperature, trying to kill off burn off the viruses. There's chest pain from the cough, chills from the fever. The body trying to reset the temperature of the body. There is also what? Rapid heartbeats. You have all this on the picture coming up from infection of this virus. The next slide. Next slide. Right, so in the lungs, it will always cause a pneumonia. And when it gets into the red cells, it causes, this is where the problem is. It will almost always cause a dissociation between the interaction between the iron and the heme part of the hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin is made up of the heme and the globin parts. This carries oxygen. This complex carries oxygen. Now, when the viruses come, the first thing they do is to break that bond, releasing the iron radicals into the system. Now, these iron radicals causes the problem because once they are released, they start finding a way into the internal cellular organelles, the lysosomes and all these other places where enzymes are stored. What do? it starts a peroxidase reaction. This reaction is like activating those enzymes, which are more or less catalytic in nature. What catalysis means is that they break down anything protein that they see, and all the cell organelles are proteins. So what they do, what the activated enzymes do is that they start destroying all the cells, giving you the pneumonia, and then all what the migration of immune cells, that's the cytokines and interleukins. This is on the whole called a cytokine storm, and this would explain the malaise, the lethargy, and easy fatigability that these patients have. Now, a combination of the hypoxia, that's a low oxygen tension, following the fact that the red cells carrying the oxygen are no longer able to carry their oxygen. That's what causes hypoxia. The cytokine storms, and perhaps, any other little infection that was being under control leads to the demise of the patients. Essentially, you must note that there's a formation of microthrombi from the already destroyed red cells. Microthrombi are like small blockages that find their way into the kidneys, microvessels of the kidneys, the liver, the brain, and the heart, causing a multiple organ failure. Now, this is a picture of what a COVID lung looks like. You can see the infection starts out from the areas, the lung areas nearest to the bronchi, and then spreads inwards. These are areas where you have high oxygen tension. High oxygen tension, that this is where you have a lot of exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So when these places are affected, of course, this lung is already dead on arrival. And this is an X-ray vision trying to show the same thing. It's the same lung on this other side. Well, so let's go over to the therapeutics proper. Therapeutics for COVID. I must start with the fact that there is no consensus whatsoever on a working protocol for this disease, because it's still a new infection, and we're trying hard. The medical society is trying hard to at least curtail what is going on first. So on understanding of the viruses, you can now work on the different pathophysiologic steps and then see how you can stem the attack and be able to overcome this infection. First, we look at the general protections. I mean, it can never be overemphasized. Hand washing with soap. Now, when you use soap, that hydrophobic becomes broken, because the hydrophobic layer becomes broken because the soap binds to that membrane, tears it out, and destroys the virus. That is the essence of frequent hand washing. Mask will prevent you from the droplets. Social distances, of course, distancing would also prevent you from inhaling the droplets from an infected individual. Then reducing your facial contact means stop touching your face. Once you have touched an infected surface, taking it to your face will, probably take the virus into your system from your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Physical therapy, we're looking at heat therapy. Now, if you remember, the first thing we said about these viruses is that they are heat intolerant. So any form of heat, dry heat, focused to the nose or the face, will lyse or break up the viruses easily. Exercise brings about increased internal heat, internal environment, heat of the internal environment, and this also brings about a heat therapy situation. Exercise also mobilizes white cells to points where they are needed, in this case, the lungs. So when you exercise, you open up your airway, you're taking in a lot of oxygen, trying to help out your system to combat this virus. And again, the white cells will now be mobilized quickly to that area. Now let's look at the pharmacology. That's the drugs that have been tried. Recently, in I think it was May 1, the FDA approved the use of this drug, remdesivir. It's an antiviral drug. It comes in as an ATP analog. What they mean by that is adenosine triphosphate analog. That's what ATP means. Analog means something that looks like ATP. Now, the the virus uses ATP to make its RNA, that's its genetic molecule. So when you put something that looks like it, it gets to block the production of the RNA molecule. That practically puts a stop to the replication of the viruses. Also, in India and some part of Southeast Asia, they've also used favipiravir. This one is an RNA-dependent RNA polymerase inhibitor. What this means is that when the RNA, the molecule, the genetic molecule is being produced, there is this enzyme, this polymerase enzyme helps to rapidly produce the RNA. Now, when you inhibit that, you also put a stop to the replication of this viral genome. Anti-malarials, well, of course, everybody knows, even Trump takes chloroquine and hydrochloroquine. Hydrochloroquine is also very available in Nigeria. We know what it's all about. But the funny thing is, we don't, they really don't know how this works. Speculations are that hydrochloroquine and chloroquine, what they really do is they raise the pH of the environment. And now we all know that once you move the pH up to a basic pH, this helps, stops the attachment of the virus to any cell at all. Almost all diseases, almost all bacterial, fungal, infectious diseases prefer a basically acidic environment. So whenever you go basic, whenever you go up on the pH line, they are all dead. They become inactive. So this is the speculated function of hydrochloroquine and chloroquine. Looking at the antibiotics I put there, you know, for some reason, some people still put azithromycin or still take azithromycin, you know, as part of what the drug regimen. What azithromycin does is a macrolide, it's an antibacterial macrolide. What I mean is of the family macrolides, where you have the clarithromycin and all the other mycin drugs. This drug, what it does is it actually takes care of atypical organisms. Now, if you remember at the beginning of my slide, I mentioned something about the death being a combination of maybe a secondary infection. Those secondary infections are caused by atypical organisms that will almost always cause a pneumonia too, and then kill off most of their carriers. Now let's look at immune boosters. The immune boosters, we'll be looking at natural immune boosters this time. That's things that contain zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Zinc is a mineral found in so many food products. It's also found as medications, over-the-counter medications. We give it frequently to children who have diarrhea. What zinc does basically is it moderates the replication or the production line of all white cells, lymphocytes, neutrophils, macrophages, all white cells. So in the presence of zinc, most of our white cells are rapidly produced. So if a child lacks zinc or a human being lacks zinc, you find out that this person may not be able to fight infections. Vitamin C also catalyzes the same process. So a synergy occurs between zinc and vitamin C. The case of vitamin D is quite different. Vitamin D is a membrane stabilizer. It is not, the first two are categorized under antioxidants, but vitamin D is not an antioxidant. What it does is a membrane stabilizer. It makes sure that whenever iron leaks out into the cell, it does not pass the other organelles' cell membrane, like lysosomes that usually contain all the enzymes. So it stabilizes the intracellular membranes, making sure that the iron-free radicals do not break down those membranes, releasing those enzymes, which now cause the cytokine storm. Now we'll begin to see how important these guys are. Well, this is just a picture of how to show what to do when you're washing your hands, the frequent steps. Get water, whether it's warm or cold or hot. It's hot or cold, it doesn't matter. Take your soap, Wash the surfaces of your hands, the back and the front, in between your webs, scrub your nails, both hands, and then rinse with running water. And make sure you stay there for about 20 seconds. To beat this organism, you have to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. Next slide. Getting to the end. Now, the important, yeah, this is it. The guy that, the Madagascar herbal medicine that is ravaging Africa now. Now, this drug, this elixir, I want to call it an elixir, is a syrup. It was made out of this plant called wormwood in South Africa, or Artemisia annua in the botany world. It's a local anti-malaria. It's the same thing. This plant is actually dogon if you guys know dogon. Igbos, Yorubas, we use it to, even the Hausas. Dogon is Hausa. We use it to cure malaria. It's bitter. It has that bitter taste. It can actually raise the pH to the basic level. That's above 6, 7. So that is actually its own function. It has the same function with chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. Now they added lemon. Lemon has a lot of citrus. It's a citrus, so it has a lot of vitamin C's. Ginger and garlic added to it are blood thinners. What these blood thinners do is they actually make sure that when those microthrombi, that's those things that block the small vessels in the organs are formed, they help them get easily broken down or just moved away from the bloodstream. They are blood thinners, or they prevent their formation in the first place. So this is what ginger and garlic is doing there. However, WHO has not approved it because there's no scientific evidence of its efficacy. AU has also gone ahead to push for the ECDC to look into the efficacy and furnish WHO with the documents. Until then, that remains a local remedy. Having said all that, we're looking at vaccines now. A vaccine is actually made of, a vaccine is actually a drug or a substance made of live, killed or attenuated parts of an organism used to stimulate the immune system to produce antibodies against these organisms. Now, for the problem with RNA viruses is that they almost always change their genetic material. So if you produce a vaccine today for a particular strain, in 6 to 12 months, you need to produce another one. That is where the problem lies. So, but that said, a whole lot of vaccine producers are already, at it to see if they can get this done and push it out for the world. The novel SARS vaccine is speculated to have a new model. You see, that's where the problem is. They are going to now use the viral RNA to produce their vaccine. People are of the opinion that this will lead to a genetic remodeling of the human genome. That is where the problem lies. So the scientists are divided on for against the use of a viral RNA as against using the membrane proteins, or maybe the spikes or the glycoproteins to produce a vaccine. So until then, when they agree on what to do, we'll get there. So I want to thank you all for listening. I hope I didn't bore you. I want to say mucho gracias to my Spaniards. I want to say thank you to you all.
Thank you, Dr. Arinze.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Arinze. For those of you just joining us, I want to say a very big thank you and you're welcome. Like I said earlier, we are going to be taking questions based on first come, first serve. And we appreciate if you put your names at the end of the questions and who in particular, or which of the speakers in particular you want to direct questions to. That would be much appreciated. I'm not going to say, I think Dr. Arinze has said too much for me, even as a doctor. So I will not say anything in addition to that. I will want to invite the next speaker, Dr. Chike. But before I allow Dr. Chike to take the floor, I would want you guys to realize that this pandemic is actually a problem, because in the world right now, they've confirmed at least 5 billion cases and more than 330,000 deaths. In the US alone, about 1.6 million, more than 1.6 million cases, and with about more than 96,000 deaths. And in Nigeria, well, we are trying. We have about more than 7,000 cases, and more than, they just confirmed as at a few hours ago, about more than 220 deaths. So I will give Dr. Chike the opportunity to. Dr. Chike, are you ready for us?
Yes, I am. Hey.
Okay, so Dr. Chike is going to be talking about how we can stay safe in these times, and he's also going to be debunking a couple of theories. Like I said earlier, we are not here to talk about any conspiracy theory. We don't know if it was man-made. I don't know if Dr. Chike knows it was man-made, but we don't know if it was man-made. We don't know if it was from bats. We don't know. Well, we are sure it's from China, but at the same time, we want to focus on the medical perspective and how we can also help improve the quality of lives of the people involved in this meeting. Dr. Chike, please go ahead.
Thanks, dear. Good evening, everyone. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. I'm basically going to be talking about how what this COVID-19 really means to us in our day-to-day existence. What are the things that we need to focus on? What are the things that we need to make sure we're doing? In as much as Dr. Arinze has spoken a lot about the medical background of this whole illness. So I'm not going to repeat some of the things that he said. I'm just going to gloss over some of the things that he has said. But really, I know this session is more of an interactive session in trying to answer questions that people already have about the illness and about the outbreak. And so there are some quick ones here that I'm going to talk about, but I think it will serve a lot more when people ask questions or things that they're concerned about, and we can talk about that. Like Dia said, this is not a China said, Trump said, or who said, whatever it is. We're just looking at how it affects us in our day-to-day activities. And just to start, to kind of summarize based on some of the things that Dragzon has already mentioned and some of the things that we know, that the coronavirus disease is an infectious disease that is caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. It's, you know, why I'm saying newly discovered coronavirus is that because I've seen messages where people have shown at the back of the tall that the tall is effective against coronaviruses, and it seems as if the tall had been planning for corona a long time ago. So the coronavirus itself is not a new virus. It's just that this particular version is coronavirus, to like Razan had mentioned. The virus spread primarily through droplets of saliva, nasal, as a nose discharge, and there is human-to-human transmission. I'm saying primarily because a lot of the things that we know about the virus now is pretty much new, and with each passing day, we get to learn a lot more. So even that we know today could no longer be applied tomorrow. And you find out that by the end of this conversation, between even the three of us that are talking, I mean, three of us and the that are talking today, we might not even agree on certain things, on certain ways to go. But the point is, everyone should have as much information as they can have, and then make responsible decisions on what they want to do going forward. One important thing again to note is that most people infected with the COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate respiratory symptoms and recover without requiring any special treatment. But our major concern is for those that will require special treatment and might not be able to recover. Again, older people and those with underlying medical illnesses, for example, cardiovascular diseases like hypertension, congestive heart failure, or chronic respiratory diseases like asthma, people with diabetes mellitus are more likely to develop serious illnesses. I'm saying these serious illnesses because it doesn't mean that once you have if you have asthma and you develop COVID, doesn't mean that automatically you're not going to make it, but the illness is going to be serious in those that have these underlying illnesses. And as Raxon has said, as at this time, there is no specific vaccine or treatment for COVID-19, and our best approach at this moment is prevention of the illness. Next slide, please. Next slide, yeah. Okay, so I'm quickly going to just talk through what is the timeline for the illness. Please, again, I'm going to say this pretty much. Well, I'm just focusing on the timelines that matter to just kind of give us an idea of how the growth of this outbreak has been and where we started and where we are today. The illness was first reported by China to WHO on the 31st of December 2019. So all these things that have been happening about COVID, as in COVID-19, have actually just spanned 5 months. And the reason why I'm putting this in perspective is just for us to understand how exponentially this whole pandemic has grown and how much things have changed between just a little time period of 5 months. The first confirmed death case from coronavirus was in China as at 9 January 2020. And within 4 days, with the first reported imported case, as in like the case moved outside China to Thailand on the 13th of January 2020. At this period, we know all the things, again, the reason for saying this is that we should know that information comes on with each passing day. Nobody knew everything about it. Nobody knows everything about it now, and we're still learning as things go. The WHO now confirmed human-to-human transmission on the 21st of January 2020, at about the same day that the US was confirming its first case. The outbreak was declared a pandemic on the 30th of January 2020. So since 30th of January 2020, this has been the thing, I mean, everything that you know of that has been happening now really took off and has been growing from the 30th of January 2020. Bringing it home to Africa, the first case in Africa was reported in Egypt on Valentine's Day on the 14th of February 2020. And the first case in Nigeria was reported on the 28th of February 2020. Between February 28th, okay, like Dia had already mentioned, sorry, this slide was prepared 2 days ago. So as of 2 days ago, globally, we have 5 million and above cases with 330 deaths globally. Bringing it home to Nigeria, as of 2 days ago, our caseload is at 7,106 with 211 reported deaths due to COVID in Nigeria. And the reason why I'm putting this in balance is between February and March, when we're having just 2, 10, 24 cases, but since April, our caseload has been increasing exponentially. Down in the slide, I'm going to mention a little bit about strategies that people are adopting to kind of tackle the impact of the virus. It's going to kind of help us put things in perspective when comparing the numbers across different countries. It's not all bad news anyway. With the above 5 million cases confirmed, nearly 1.96, almost 2 million people have recovered. In Nigeria, with our 7,106 cases, 1,907 cases have recovered. And this just kind of, in terms of the death, we have a case fatality rate currently at 2%. It's very possible that this is even lower than 2% because this case fatality rate is only calculated among those that have been confirmed to have the disease. And I know we all believe, and we should rightfully believe, that there are people that have the illness that haven't been confirmed. So most likely the case fatality rate should be lower. And case fatality rate is just the number of people that die from the disease over the total number of people that have the disease. Generally, what we know now is the incubation period for the illness between when you get the infection and when you start showing symptoms is between 2 days to 14 days, on the average of 5 to 6 days. But unfortunately, within this incubation period, the patient is still contagious. In terms of symptoms, Rajon has mentioned most of the symptoms, but I'm just going to underline one key symptom here. One of the key symptoms is nothing. As in absolutely nothing. There are people that will have the virus and will not show any single symptom that we are aware of. Unfortunately, these people are asymptomatic, but they are still contagious. Like Rajan mentioned, cough is one of among the common symptoms are cough. But just to be specific, the cough is not any, I mean, we'll talk about mental health. It is not any small cough that you have. It's usually a dry and persistent cough over the entire period of days. In terms of the fever, there's really no particular type of fever that the fever is not, you can't really define the type of fever. It ranges from low-grade fever to high-grade fever, and the fever is really dependent on the severity of the cases. But usually this fever is accompanied by exhaustion, and Razan has already spent a lot of time discussing how the exhaustion comes about. One of the other key symptoms of the virus is difficulty in breathing. It is a respiratory system illness, so it's usually shortness of breath or just having difficulty in trying to take in air. There are quite a number of other symptoms that are general that kind of exist with the illness. Some of them include tiredness, aches and pains, sore throat, diarrhea of recent, conjunctivitis, and the more popular one also that people have mentioned a lot is the loss of taste or smell. The two symptoms that I put there in red are actually the serious ones. If someone gets to develop symptoms that include chest pain or chest pressure, like you feel that your chest is kind of, as in like you feel a lot of pressure building in your chest, or when you start having loss of speech or movement, these are more severe symptoms that are related to the illness. Next symptom, next slide, sorry. Next slide. The next slide is really talking about how to protect yourself. I'm going to talk about this generally in the broad context of what the WHO recommends and then what we are trying to do in Nigeria as well. Again, I'm going to reiterate some points from what Rajan has made in terms of trying to understand why these interventions are actually what we're kind of pushing for people to do. We've already said that the coronavirus is spread from person to person. In other words, people can catch coronavirus from those that have the virus. And the disease is spread primarily from person to person through small droplets from nose or mouth, which are expelled when someone coughs, sneezes, or speaks. Important thing to know that these droplets are relatively heavy, so they don't travel far. You can project it that far, and they quickly sink to the ground when they are released from someone that has the virus. However, if people can catch the virus if they breathe in the droplets from someone that is infected with the virus. Again, unfortunately, when this virus lands on objects or surfaces around the person, such as like maybe tables, doorknobs, or handrails, people can become infected by touching the objects or surfaces. Then, and I put this in bracket, touching their eyes, nose, and mouth. It's practically, we need to pretty much understand this, that it involves you transferring the virus. I mean, as opposed to someone directly coughing on you, it also means when you transfer the virus with your hands from any surface where it has been onto your own, as in face as well. The virus may be shed. Okay, so these are important notes to point out. And like I said, we don't know everything, so we're still getting as much information as we know. So it's now known that the virus can be shed in saliva, semen, and feces. We're not yet sure whether it's also shed in vaginal fluids as well. Obviously, kissing can transmit the virus. We're talking about someone releasing droplets. If you're exchanging droplets and saliva, obviously you can transmit the virus. Transmission through feces or sexual intercourse appears to be extremely unlikely at this point. Things can change tomorrow. So with this background knowledge, we've now just mentioned some of the points or strategies that we talk about in terms of protecting yourself. The key one is social distancing. We should try and maintain at least 1 meter apart. And the reason why we're saying that is I've already said that the droplets are relatively heavy and they don't travel far. So immediately when they're released, they get to sink to the ground. So if you give yourself at least 1 meter difference, the best way to easily measure like 1 meter difference is if you imagine an A4 paper, if you put like A4 paper, like 3 to 4 A4 paper together, that will give you an idea of like what 1 meter means. The second strategy is hand washing. Everybody has been singing hand washing, hand washing, hand washing. And the reason why we're focusing on hand washing is because, like I mentioned, transferring the virus onto yourself, the number, I think on the average, someone touches their face about 250 to 300 times in a day. So that kind of lets you have an idea of how often you are at risk of transferring the virus from touching a surface where it has been. And that's why we keep on advocating on washing of hands or using hand sanitizer. That one has already gone through on. The reason, of course, is because the soap can break the virus's membrane and be able to kill the virus. How often should you wash your hands and soap? As often as you can, as frequently as you can, or more likely, like when you think you've come in contact with a surface that is usually touched by quite a number of people. Now, the third option that people talk about is wearing a face mask. WHO recommends that you should wear face masks if you care for sick people, and then when you go out to crowded places. However, in Nigeria, it's become mandatory that everybody should wear face masks when they go out. The reason for that is really the face mask that you're wearing is to protect others. It's more about protecting others. So that's why a lot of conversation has been around, why do I use cloth masks? A cloth mask is not sterile, virus can pass through. It's important for us to understand that the mask is more to protect others, and that is in case you're shedding the virus, like I mentioned about people being asymptomatic and we not knowing who has the virus. So when you wear the face mask, you're actually protecting others from whatever secretion that comes out from you. Well, as it is in Nigeria, because our country strategy is a bit somehow, we try to assume that everybody is a potentially exposed, and that's why the face mask kind of makes sense in Nigeria. In wearing the face mask, there are certain things that we need to kind of understand. Remember, the key point that I mentioned is transferring the virus with your hand from surfaces of where it has been onto your face. So imagine that you've touched quite a number of surfaces and you're wearing a face mask, and then you use the same hand to kind of either wear the face mask or put it on or pull it over your nose or cover it or to eat something that is touching you. If you were protecting yourself, then you basically just wasted all your effort. And that's why they advise to just wear it. And there's the whole video about trying to use your finger to get above your. I thank you, dear, for trying to for doing that. Using your finger to put it up over your ears and off your ears. Don't do the whole pulling it with your mouth, because the point again, the other thing to note is because you have a face mask on your face, it increases the odds of you touching your face. So that's kind of why it's important for us to be aware of these little gimmicks. The other things that people are suggesting is avoid going to crowded places, just by the mere fact that the more people you come in contact with, the higher the risk of you getting in contact with the virus. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth as much as possible. That we've also mentioned respiratory hygiene. Good respiratory hygiene comes if you're not wearing your face mask. If you want to cough, don't cough into your hand, because your hand really is a very mobile part of your body. As you don't you cough into your elbow, or if you use tissue to dispose of it quickly. I'm going to talk on one more point before we move to the next slide. People wear gloves, and the question is going to come: how effective is wearing gloves going to be? Let me just say this. I can't repeat this enough. Wearing gloves, remember what we're trying to prevent is for you to touch somewhere and then take your hand and touch your face. If you wear a glove and then you touch your face, you're still transferring the virus. However, if you're caring for sick people, or if you're in contact with people that have the virus, you should wear a glove, because the chances that you will come in contact are a lot more. Now, when you wear a glove, it's important for you not to touch your face when you're wearing the glove. It's important for you to discard the gloves as and when you use it. Unfortunately, I don't have a glove here for me to demonstrate how to wear a glove. The important thing is, okay, the important thing is for your ungloved hand not to touch the open faces of the glove. Dia has tried to exactly put your finger, if you can see Dia's video, put your fingers on the inside of the glove to kind of pull it above you. At the same time, when you're wearing the glove, you also put your finger on the inside to pull the glove above, and then use the gloved hand to do that. Apologies for not demonstrating that physically, but that's the point. Remember, I'm saying gloves are really very important for you if you can. If you come in contact with a lot of people, maybe if you work in sales. Yeah. Yes.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh crap. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, you're okay.
Francis, okay.
You're okay.
Right.
You're good.
Okay. Where was I? Okay, so in terms of gloves, as in who should use gloves? If you're a health worker that come in contact with patients, then you should wear gloves because you have a higher exposure risk. If you work in a sales environment where you touch a lot of things and come in contact with people, you should wear gloves. The only caveat I'm putting to that is if you wear gloves and you're touching yourself up and down, then you're really not helping yourself. Sorry, I need to move to the next slide. Francis, can you assist? I think Lolade is frozen.
Chike,
yeah.
Lolade is trying to get back in, so I would suggest you kind of just summarize.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can share your screen, and maybe basically just summarize.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, come on. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of strategies, as in what strategies are available for us going forward, what are we doing as a country? Sorry, I don't have any of these on my slide because I have a very strong opinion about Nigeria's strategy to the coronavirus, and I think it's best for me to be very objective. Before we get into strategy, I think I want to explain some of these points so that people kind of get a bit clearer on what they mean. The difference between quarantine, isolation, and social distancing. Quarantine just basically means if we feel that you've come in contact with the virus, or if we will feel that you've been exposed, to keep you in a separate place for 14 days, basically what is the incubation period, and see if you're going to develop the symptoms. So that's why most people that come back from zones or areas where we think the virus it happens are usually kept in quarantine places for 14 days. Isolation just basically means that if you do have the virus, that you should self-isolate or you should be isolated, as in terms of not coming in contact with other people so you don't share the virus. And the social distancing is what I spoke about in terms of maintaining at least 1 meter distance between you and other people. So there are basic strategies that kind of seem in bulk in terms of what people have been trying to see what works for them as a country, particularly. I'm just going to talk about three things. One is herd immunity. And for us to understand what herd immunity means, basically when most of the population is immune to a particular infectious disease, and then they now provide indirect protection to those who are not immune to the disease, with what we have with measles and polio. And trying to explain that in very simple terms is like if 80% of people are immune, let's say you come to a room where you have 10 people and 8 of them are immune and 2 people are not immune, the ability of the virus to now move from somebody to another is actually very low. So those 80% are protecting the 20% that are not immune. What this kind of helps us understand is if that 80% drops to maybe like 40%, the virus or the illness is able to spread, and that's why we're having resurgent cases of measles and stuff in the US. We all know all the issues about things that people have about vaccines. So herd immunity is achieved either through infection or vaccination. Infection just means that everybody gets the illness and then they develop immunity, while vaccination means you give vaccines and people develop immunity to that. The challenge with herd immunity in this COVID situation is that if 70% of the entire population develops COVID or develops COVID-19, is going to overwhelm the health system. So imagine a situation where out of the 200 million Nigerians in Nigeria, 140 million people develop the illness. We don't have the facility to be able to take that to those people. And it has been calculated that for herd immunity to occur through infection, that 70% of the entire global population needs to be infected. The best case scenario for achieving herd immunity with infection is if the COVID comes in waves like we have with flu. So maybe in this wave, 20% gets infected. The next wave it comes another 20%, and that way till we get to something that is reasonable for people. I'm adding this point here in terms of, because it has come up a bit in the conversations, as in there are people that are like, let me just go and get the illness so that I can get it over and done with. The challenge with that is that we have a higher mortality and there's an unpredictability in terms of mortality. So basically, if you're doing that, you're really rolling a dice on whether you're going to live or die. So it's not something that you randomly say, okay, I have higher chances of surviving or not. You're basically rolling a blind dice to know whether you're going to live or die. And then there's also the factor that people don't know what type of underlying illness that they have. And we all think we're healthy until something really challenges our system and that we really know where we kind of stand. Let me just talk quickly about vaccines. So another option, which might be the best option that we have, is vaccines, which kind of is going to help people, because when you get, the idea of the vaccine is that when you get a vaccine, you develop some kind of mild reactions, and then you can get immune to it. Before I say that, I know there's been conversations around reinfection, as in people that have been that have had the virus getting reinfected again. The current stand on that is that there is no proven evidence that reinfection occurs. The period where they mentioned that that some people that are tested negative tested positive again, those were really cases that those are really cases of using antibody testing. So it was more about, well, that's what we know, that there are really cases that there were false positives. So at this moment, there is no evidence that there is a possibility of infection, and we're going to work with that. So in terms of vaccine, the thing about the vaccine, the challenges with the vaccine, like Rajan had pointed out, in being able to develop a vaccine for rapidly mutating or rapidly changing RNA viruses. But even at that, as at April 9th, 115 different COVID-19 vaccine candidates are in development. But the challenge with vaccine is that it usually takes a long time for it to pass through all the processes. At this moment, it is anticipated that it's going to take between 9 months to 2 years for us to develop a vaccine, which it might sound long, but it's still a very short time frame. The shortest vaccine that has been developed took 5 years to develop. And just to let us know that there are several steps to do that. I know there was some news about Oxford University where they started human trials, but there are basically three there's the animal testing step, which a lot of these vaccines are passed through, are now in the human testing phase. But even in the human testing phase, there are usually 3 phases. The first one is the safety phase, basically where we're trying to find out what dosage is safe and cannot cause additional harm. I mean, there are basic things, ethical concerns. In everything that we do in medicine, the major thing that you have to bear in mind is that you're not causing more harm to the person. So if the process you're going through is going to cause more harm, then it's not worth going through. Then even at that, as in that safety margin is just going to find out what dosage of that particular substance is safe enough to just at the very most produce mild reactions like mild fever or pain at the injection site. Those are the kind of, it's basically to gauge the dose of the vaccine that is the lowest dose that is going to be very effective. Then they start the whole efficacy trials. And the efficacy trials goes through several steps. Step 1, you test it with a very small population to just see kind of how they react. A small healthy population to see how they kind of react. Phase 2, you try with people that have that are highly susceptible or have the disease, and then phase 3 you try with the general public. So these are things that still need to go on. But like I said, on the flip side, everybody's trying to make sure that we compress the timeline between developing these vaccines as soon as possible. Then moving over to the drug option. Currently, there is no drug that is currently approved for treatment at this moment. Razon has mentioned, however, several countries are trying different drugs in different doses. Some of the drugs include chloroquine and its brother hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir. There's also the antiretroviral drug, lopinavir, but these are drugs that are really being in trial. And let me also admit that Nigeria is also testing some drugs as well. So we are also running some tests with different combination of drugs to also see which ones are effective as well. And there are two options that have also been mentioned in terms of therapy that can be used. One is passive immunization, which is like injecting the serum from people that have recovered from the illness and have some antibodies, injecting it into people to see if they can help protect us from that. And then there's also option of suppressing immune reaction. I know if Razon mentioned like some of the things that come up with the virus is that when it gets into the lung, it kind of activates our immune system, and our immune system in its initial graduation, and what it does just pushes out all kinds of things that it uses to fight off illnesses. That's what causes the cytokine storm that causes multiple organ damage. So there's also some logic around trying to suppress immune system so that we don't overreact and then cause more harm than we are supposed to solve. Now I'm just going to talk briefly about what I consider the Nigerian strategy in terms of battling the virus. So for now, the country has kind of realized that we don't have the resources that is necessary to take a very strict approach in terms of movement restrictions or closing out people, and that's why we kind of come to this whole thing of easing lockdown in phases. And then secondly, while we're going with the gold standard of testing people using PCR reaction, it's also a bit difficult for us to test a large number of population. In my own honest and very, very personal opinion, there is a lot of issues with the strategy that we are approaching. It's almost as if we're trying to push for herd immunity, or we're basically just waiting for someone to develop a vaccine. Unfortunately, that's kind of how it appears. Because there isn't some strategic way that we are pushing for the virus. In terms of testing, we're testing symptomatic cases or people that have been confirmed to have been exposed to the virus. We're not doing mass testing like some other countries are doing, and that's why we have a very low test rate. There are arguments for and there are arguments against that, because the point remains, even if I test you today and you turn out to be positive, I'm still going to advise you to do the same thing in terms of self-isolate and social distancing. So I might as well tell you to do that with or without the test. So testing is not really like testing in terms of managing the illness doesn't really add any much information, but testing kind of helps you develop a strategy in terms of managing the entire country's economy and how you go about that. But unfortunately, we are limited in how we do our testing, and that's kind of where we are. So still, our approach is to prevent as much infections as possible. The whole conversation around how do we gauge when to open up more, that's where the challenge comes, because as long as over the past let me say 3 weeks to 1 month, we've increased our capacity at testing. So we're testing more people, and just for the mere fact that we're testing more people, we're going to be having more cases. Now, there are a lot of issues around how the test is done for you to accurately calculate what proportion of the new tests are turning out positive. But those are things that are really going on behind the scenes. So we don't have the type of data that we need to determine when do we move from the phase 1 of the easing of the lockdown to the next phase, or even to know whether when we've reached the peak of our transmission that we can say, okay, at some point the transmission rate has kind of started dropping. And that's why you kind of see fluctuations between today we have 300 cases, tomorrow we have 100 and something cases. It's also important for me to add here that a lot of the response, even though we see NCDC and the Federal Ministry of Health and the Presidential Task Force doing a lot of the front running, is actually driven a lot more by the states. So when you do receive, again, I'm speaking to the Nigerian context, when you do get tested, you receive your results from the state epidemiologists, not necessarily from NCDC. And I know there have been challenges with people having been tested and not receiving their test results. That is really driven by the states, and for those in Abuja, that's driven by the FCT administration. Again, it's really a problem of coordination. It's really a problem of everybody coming together and working hand in hand to kind of achieve a common goal. Hopefully, we're going to get things on the right track. Just very quickly, this is my last slide, and this is just to talk about some very quick, some very quick myths that are going on. I'm going to repeat this as it is. Please, I don't want anyone to feel slighted. I know it might be basic, but I just kind of feel these things need to be said. Adding pepper or hotness to your soup or making hotter or warmer soup does not prevent or cure COVID. It's not transmitted through insect bites or animals at this moment. Spraying bleach or disinfectant all over the body will not protect you from the coronavirus, and it's actually dangerous. And the reason why I'm saying that is, if we can take one thing away from this presentation, is to know that apart from someone coughing directly on you, is transferring the virus with your hands onto your eyes, nose, and mouth that is going to transmit the virus from you. So you can bath with bleach or do whatever you want to do with that. So long as you still take your hand, touch places, and touch your face, you're more likely going to get exposed to the virus. I'm not directing this at anybody, but I'm going to say this: drinking methanol, ethanol, or alcohol does not prevent or cure coronavirus. If you as in gargling it or trying to rinse out your mouth, it's not going to do that. Now, there is a little bit of school of thought, I agree, in terms of, yes, when the virus comes in, it first stays in the upper respiratory tract for a while before it goes down to the the lower respiratory tract and causes infection. And yes, if you try to apply it at that period, there's every potential that the virus could be killed. But at the same time, how often are you going to be doing that, and how sure are you really that you're going to get to where the virus is emerging? There's no proven scientific evidence that 5G neural networks spread coronavirus. Standing under the sun in high temperatures does not prevent the coronavirus. And as we've seen in Nigeria, the virus can be transmitted in hot and humid climates. Importantly, the thermal scanners that people use when you're trying to get into banks or malls or wherever in Nigeria, they don't detect coronavirus. What it just says is this person has fever or this person does not have fever. So that you were scanned does not mean you're good to go. And I already mentioned that gargling hot water or salt water is not going to keep you safe from the virus. The things that you need to do is to avoid coming in contact with close contact with people, washing your hands, and trying as much as possible to avoid touching your hands and mouth and faces. Thank you, everyone. This is my last slide, but I want to say some other things in terms of, we've been doing quite a number of surveys trying to assess people's perception about the virus. And one resounding thing in Nigeria is that people think that the virus is fake in Nigeria. We've had several comments where people say the coronavirus is real in other countries, but the one in Nigeria is fake. And these are coming across all cadres of people. So we're not talking about the common people. Even highly educated people do make those comments. Yes, there is conspiracy theories abound, but we should look at what is on ground and what is particularly obtainable to. So the virus is here, people are dying from it. You do serve us well to protect ourselves from the corona virus, because the real truth is it's a throw of dice. If you get infected, as in whether you come out of it or whether you don't come out of it, a lot depends on how your body is going to be able to handle the virus. Again, I'm stressing this, that people can be infected and don't show any symptoms. There have been several videos that have gone around where people are comparing with coronavirus in the US or UK where they are maybe on oxygen, whereas the coronavirus patients in Nigeria are dancing and eating all kinds of correct food. The point remains that not everybody, in fact, a lot more people would not have the serious symptoms of respiratory distress when they do have coronavirus, but they still need to be isolated because they are still able to transmit the virus. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chike. You have given us an assignment, even as medical practitioners, because we could not stop you, but you gave us everything in detail that we needed to know about this. So without wasting too much time, I would like Dr. Chidima to come up. So what I'm going to do is, Francis, are you going to share a slide or should I share a slide? Because I think I have a slide.
Go ahead, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So Dr. Chidima, like I said earlier, is a senior registrar in neurology, and she's going to be telling us about COVID-19 and health. So, Dr. Chidima, you here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay, good. So I'm going to be helping you with your slides, and time is no longer our friend. So we'll try, because this is actually one of the most important topics of this meeting. So we'll try as much as possible to go ahead. So please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Nice to meet us once again. Okay, so I'll be talking about our mental health and COVID-19. So we know earlier this year, this coronavirus disease, COVID-19, was declared a public health emergency, disease of health concern, international concern, and by March 2020, WHO characterized it as a pandemic. And we know what is going on right now in the world. The number of people affected, number of deaths, and with all these, it has induced considerable degree of fear and worry in the population at large, and among certain groups that are vulnerable, such as the older adults and their care providers and people with underlying health conditions. Okay, and there are other sources of worry and anxiety, such as the constant stream of news, bad news, especially from unverified sources. Okay, and these sources have not been verified, and people are believing stories coming up, so many myths coming up, and nobody knows how to deal with them. Also, government policies on lockdown, quarantine, isolation, separation of families. Okay, so this is causing new levels of loneliness, depression, and resortment to harmful practices such as dependence on alcohol and drug. Self-harm and suicidal behavior also expected to rise amongst healthcare workers. Okay, there's going to be revenue losses, loss of jobs. People are going to take pay cuts, and businesses are not there to meet up with their expectations. So a lot of anxiety building up. Okay, fear of robbery, insecurity, and all that. Kids are at home, not going to school, and then the stigma associated with those that have contacted this illness. So how do we cope? I'm going to jump slide. So let's go to how do we cope with all this. Just keep scrolling through. Yes. So how do we cope with the current crisis and stay strong? We need to maintain focus, achieve our goals. Do we have what it takes to live meaningful, purposeful lives, even with what is going on? So let's consider some practical steps that we can take. So we call them the 6 pillars of brain health. Next slide, please. Exercise, food and nutrition, staying, sleep and relaxation, taking care of our health, social interaction, and include endurance training and all that, weightlifting. Next slide. Okay, and then what this does is to improve circulation through the body, blood circulation going through the brain, okay? And once the brain gets perfused, the brain cells also get to expand and adapt to the ongoing situation, okay? Some exercises like Tai Chi and the other one, yoga, helps with concentration, helps us to build focus and all that. Next slide. So let's go to food and nutrition. We need to get good food at this time, okay? Things that would help us build our immunity. And we can find this in fruits and vegetables, fresh fruits and vegetables. The Mediterranean diet, okay, is a diet rich in fish and whole grains, green leafy vegetables, olives and nuts. Okay, so this helps the brain to revitalize itself, and there are good sources of antioxidants, which Dr. Ragzon has mentioned in the past when he presented. Antioxidants flush out radicals in the body, and then these radicals destroy the body. But what the antioxidant does, what they do is to remove these super radicals from the body that depress the immune system. Okay, so let's go to the next item, which will be interaction, social interaction. Okay, let's talk about relaxation and sleep, distressing. Healthcare workers, frontliners are very likely to experience depression at this time because we are the front line and we face a lot of things. So we advise to take care of ourselves, okay? Find a body in the health amongst your colleagues, and then the healthcare managers are also advised to interchange workers, okay? So some people that are at the front line may be interchanged with others that are less experienced and all that, so that people can mingle up, okay? They're also required to take breaks during work to interact and to find ways of getting help, managing our mental health and psychosocial well-being. This period is very important, as well as engaging in physical activity, eating sufficient and eating sufficiently and eating healthy food. Okay, others at this point in time. So let's go to social interaction. So social interaction is one way through which we could take care of our mental health in this pandemic. Okay, many families are isolated from others, and families are okay. With this period of lockdown, a lot of things are happening, and having this interaction, okay, provides a conducive environment for these kids to really unburden themselves. Okay, it also help people know that there's someone caring about you. So that rich social connection provides sources of support and reduces stress, combats depression, and enhances intellectual stimulation. And studies have shown that those with the most social interaction within their community experience the slowest rate of memory decline. And while engaging in social interaction is also a way of removing stress from ourselves and from the environment. And talking about stress, at workplace, you mustn't say yes to every task given to you. You learn to say no, and you take a day at a time. You focus on the present. You can have a reasonable projection about yourself, about the future. Once in a while, you give your brain a 10-minute break so as to absorb what is going on around you. It's advisable to keep a journal, a diary, and keep a list of anything bothering you. Think positively and we speak positively too. And most times we should allow events to unfold naturally and focus on a specific problem at hand, just like one day at a time. Okay, because there's so much uncertainty regarding this pandemic. When is it going to end? When our lives going to, and when are we going back to normalcy? Okay, so all these things have a way of inducing stress on us, and we need to say no to these thoughts. Okay, then next slide, please. Okay, then our attitude to people recovering from COVID-19 is another thing we need to talk about. Stigma. We don't have to stigmatize people suffering from COVID-19. Okay, we don't need to refer to them as, we don't have to refer to them as COVID-19 cases or COVID-19 victims, COVID-19 families or the diseased. Rather, we can say that these are people who have COVID-19, who are being treated, or who are recovering from COVID-19, and because these ones will still have to go back to their former lives. They still have to go back to their jobs, to their families and loved ones. And it's important to keep them away from these tags. Let's not place any tags on them in order to reduce stigma. So it's also part of their own mental health. So what we can do also would be to find opportunities to amplify positive and hopeful stories. For example, we can talk about people who have recovered or people who have supported loved ones and who are willing to share their experiences. And there are also unharmful coping strategies that people use now, such as tobacco, alcohol, or marijuana. In the long term, this worsens mental and physical health. So we are advised to stay away from that. So in conclusion, while we support others, let's also protect ourselves. Look for people to assist within your own means, people that can benefit, people that we can be of benefit to. Okay, so let's work together as one community, and this will help create solidarity in addressing this pandemic. Thank you very much.
Fantastic, fantastic. Dr. Chidima, I need to say a very big thank you, because you have actually helped us with our time. Now, there are a lot of questions flying around, and I'm also going to use a couple of, I'm going to use just a few minutes to ask this question. So these questions have actually been directed at a couple of people. I don't know, I think the admin should have a few questions for Dr. Chidima, 1 or 2 questions. Yeah, so Dr. Chidima, again, I need to say a very big thank you. So, Dr. Arinze, Dr. Chike, and Dr. Chidima, there's some questions coming in now, and I think I'm going to be the one directing. There's some questions for Dr. Arinze. Dr. Arinze went to town telling us about the COVID-19. So I think there's some questions that are here that you need to answer. And Dr. Chike, someone actually said that you have covered most of all the questions he wanted to ask you. So Dr. Arinze, are you here? Dr. Arinze, admin, can you please unmute Dr. Arinze? Is Dr. Arinze here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Arinze, please, I want you to be very, we don't want plenty medical, please help us.
I'm sorry, but I try to explain every medical shit that comes out of my mouth, right?
You did. Yeah. So people want to ask, first of all, yes. Someone is asking, are there any immunosuppressive drugs that can help to suppress the replication of the virus? And the person wants to know what the government and WHO is doing to help us with our immune system. So I think you should just write them down.
Yeah, Dr. Dia.
Yeah?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
I think we should give people the opportunity to ask their questions, so that there's an opportunity for them to interact with the presenters as well. So
that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, so you can go ahead and let me know whose question is up, and then I'll just unmute the specific person.
Oh, okay, great. So is Kingsley here? So Kingsley wants to ask a couple of questions. Please, can you unmute Kingsley? Kingsley.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so guys, thank you for this wonderful presentation. Ragzon, you had so much grammar, so I was using dictionary to listen to you.
Are you serious?
I'm just joking.
I know.
The question, my question is, the first one is, I think most governments are just focusing, including WHO, they're just focusing on curative measures, not on preventive measures. Apart from the fact that they are telling us all this hygiene stuff, but we want to know, what about the immune system? If our body has a chance to fight this, tell us what to take so that we can be stronger. And even if we contact it, chances are that it wouldn't survive within us for a long time. We don't want until we test positive. I was expecting, I've asked this question before in another forum, but I was expecting like a general prescription to say, these are the things you should take daily within this period, or so that your immune system will be at top notch and enable you to suppress this even if you get it at early stages. That's my first question. The second question is that the masks, Chike talked a little about it, but some people are arguing that we breathe out carbon dioxide. You have a mask that is trapping, some type of mask, I don't want to say all types of masks, but some type of masks trap the microbes and carbon dioxide you breathe out. Is it, you think to some extent it's very healthy and for us to just say use masks of any type, and for how long should we use a mask and then discard it? Then the third part of that question is, how long can my COVID-19 last on a surface or on a fabric? So that we can, I just want to have an idea of how careful we can be. Let's say you go shopping and you have for some reason to remove all your clothes, gloves and everything that touch surfaces and keep them somewhere. How long can we quarantine, let's say, those fabrics till we now feel the virus is dead?
Okay.
Dr. Kaminze, please.
Right.
Dr. Kaminze, please.
I'm here.
Dr. Kaminze, please, we crave your indulgence to be very, because the way you have positioned now, it looks like you want to give us another lecture. So please, just
I'll take it slow this time.
You know?
Yeah.
No. Just straight to the point. Just quick, you know.
Ironically, a good number of things he asked have already been dealt with. Perhaps he wasn't a bit, he wasn't there at the beginning, or maybe he got a bit distracted. Let me start by saying that too much of everything is bad, even prayers. So when you say something you'll be taking every day, it becomes an issue. We spoke about immune boosters. First of all, I graded my presentation in a way that you move from A, B to C before you get to vaccines. So starting with the general protection, you do your general protection, use some, if you're symptomatic or you start having stuffy nose, you apply that dry heat. That's good old cold therapy of using steam and essential balm or brob. It works like magic, So that is the heat therapy I'm talking about. Put hot water, add some menthol to the hot water and inhale it. You'll be shocked at what that thing does. The heat, because the virus is heat intolerant, it lyses its membrane, breaks it down quickly and kills it. That is the first part. Then the general protection of washing hands and all that. Chike has dissected it more than I can even think of or imagine. I could only break it down for the layman by saying the soap breaks the membrane of this the viral cell and destroys the virus alongside as you go on. But you have to wash your hands for at least 20 minutes. That said, the next thing will be the immune boosters. We mentioned zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Now, I didn't want to go to town to start mentioning all the food or fruits and things that one can actually take. Some are nauseating to some people, others are quite appealing. So what you need to do, Casey, is, pick those citrus fruits that you like. If you like lemon, good, it's very rich. Lime, very rich in vitamin C. Oranges, tangerine, very rich. Zinc will be found in virtually all vegetables, So if you can patronize him and buy vegetable soup from him and, indulge. The fact is, food, what you take in as food is almost better than what you take in as drug. Why? Because the system will take your GI system, that's your internal, your abdominal organs, will take and absorb the recommended daily doses from these food that you're taking, okay? Food and fruits that you're taking. And that will, equip you to fight the organism. So in essence, you just have to eat healthy, choosing the variety of food and foods that you have in your locale, and then, exercise frequently. Then for the mask use, of course, Chike has equally mentioned that is, you wear your mask when you're going to a crowded area, I also want to bring in a joke that the mask gives you your mouth odor back. Of course, that means that the mouth of every individual harbors organisms that produce hydrogen sulfide gases, and amongst that, hydrogen sulfide is the most pungent smelling gas that these organisms produce. That said, no matter how you brush your mouth, the organisms in your mouth replicate as soon as you close it for too long. So frequent talking would also help, reduce the load of organisms in your mouth and all that.
Okay, Dr. Arin said.
For COVID on fabrics, yep. For COVID on fabric, let me finish. The okay. COVID on fabric, they said it's about what, 48 hours to a week. All these things are still speculations. I don't know how they even got to know how long a virus will spend on a cloth. For God's sake, if you by chance exposed yourself to any individual with it, wash the damn clothes. Use soap and water and wash it. Why would you want to keep the clothes so that the virus will replicate on the cloth and infect you? Come on, put the damn thing in a washing machine or use your hand and wash it off, okay? Hang and dry. Use your pressing iron and kill the remaining of the organisms that will manage to survive, okay? I think I've...
Okay, yeah, so what I quickly want to ask a yes or no question now. We want to know is, does WHO have a recommended immune booster?
No.
Yes or no?
No. The whole process is still in evolution.
Okay, fine.
There's no, like I said, there's no protocol yet.
Okay.
It's going to take some time, When they finish this study, they will put it through a strain and stress mechanism.
Dr. Arinze, thank you, because you are still on the hot seat. Admin, please, can you unmute Oracle? Let him quickly ask his question. Dr. Arinze, like I said.
Here we go.
Dr. Arinze, like I said,
Hello?
you have like 16 questions for you.
You 12 minutes.
You're in trouble.
Oh, for what? I did, yeah.
So just be answering it.
Hello.
Just
sorry. Good evening, all.
Yeah,
please
good
go
evening.
Ahead.
Oracle, how are you, sir? How is the shrine?
We balance. My question is very simple. Talking about the body pH level, about being the body pH level. You made mention of when the pH level of the body is on a certain level, then it's almost as good as killing any antibody coming into the system. So my question is this. Okay, my question is this. There's this new craze in town about alkaline water, Kangen water. So taking that water, because I have somebody that has been pushing it to me, the water pH level is already 9.5. So consuming this water regularly now.
Whether it's safe?
Is it safe? Because the pH level you mentioned for the human system, I think is about 5 point something, but the water being 9.5. Is it safe? Will it help in situations like this, at least to boost your immune system?
No.
So that's just basically my question.
Okay. pH, when you look at, if you remember from chemistry of good old days, it's 1 to 14, right? With the midpoint being around 6, right? So, but the internal environment is maintained between pH of what, 5.5 to 6.5, by so many other organelles, the kidney primarily, and then the liver, and then the lungs, okay? If I go into that, I may spend another 1 hour trying to break it down, okay? So whenever you're sick, you find out that the pH of your internal environment, drives closer to 5.5 or a little less, okay, that acidic environment encourages viral, bacterial, fungal replication in your body. So, but the closer you are to 6.5 or a little more, gives you a protection. It reduces the replication factor of all these organisms within your system. That said, the person marketing alkaline water, of course, when you're not putting it into your blood or that, because that's where the ECF, what we call the extracellular fluid is, and that blood, it's the major ECF of the system. The intracellular system now is a balance between what happens between the extracellular, intracellular, and interstitial. These are areas where a lot of balancing is ongoing. If you take the water, where it goes to is inside your GI. What the body does is it absorbs the much it can. Of course, there is no way that system will shoot up to 9 points, but you just find out that the pH will just drift closer to 6.5 or a little more. Okay. That said, when that environment is maintained like that, of course, with a functional kidney, you will not exceed 7 or 8, let alone getting to 9, because once you get towards that 9, it becomes another issue. Your system starts, capitulating again. It becomes a problem for your internal organs to manage. Hence, the kidney, the lungs, the liver helps to, what we call detoxification. Maintain a balance so that you do not overshoot. Yes, the alkaline water is good, but it's not something one should be taking regularly or maybe every day. Too much of everything is bad. I hope I've dealt with that question.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Arinze. Dr. Arinze, I'll just give you some breathing space, and I'll quickly
fire.
No, we'll come back to you. So please don't get up from that seat. Dr. Chike, are you here? Dr. Chike. Francis, please, can you unmute Kenjika Kongo, and let him quickly ask his question, because he has 4 questions and he should just quickly ask his questions. Let Dr. Chike be very brief, and so we can move ahead, because time is fast spent.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Dr. Chike.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. A couple of questions.
Kon, are you here?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Okay.
A couple of questions. Do recovered patients develop any sort of immunity? That's 1. 2, what if there was no lockdown? What if we leave the lockdown now and continue our lives as normal? Will everyone develop herd immunity if we're infected? Then 3, the testing figures are obviously very few in Africa and sub-Saharan Africa. But if the virus here is has the same potency as the one in Europe and America, why are the death figures so small here? Because we can hide people who have infections, but surely we can't hide people who die. And then another question is, on a side note, people talk about cold water and flu. It's been a myth since we were young. Is there really any scientific backing to it, saying, okay, if you have a cold, don't drink cold water, or cold water enhances it or makes it worse, and if you drink warm water, it doesn't make it as bad? That's it.
Okay. Dr. Chike. Dr. Chike, are you there?
Chike, can you hear me?
Okay, so I think I can answer a few of these questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So you're asking if recovered patients actually develop some.
Hello.
Okay. So Dr. Chike, you back?
All right. Yeah.
No. So go ahead.
I was actually muted. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Did you get the questions?
So I got the first three questions. I didn't get the last question about drinking hot or cold water. Yeah. So I'm just going to answer the three questions as quickly as I can. So
okay, please go ahead.
Yeah. So the quick response to you, Kun, on the first question: do you develop some level of immunity if you get the virus? At this moment, the general thought is yes. People that have been infected don't get reinfected. That's the quick response to that. If we lift lockdown now, are we going to be able to develop some herd immunity? I've said that it's been projected that for us to develop herd immunity, 70% of the population needs to be infected. And if that happens, our health system is going to be overwhelmed. For us to develop herd immunity, that means 70% of people need to be infected. And because we're not certain on what the mortality rate is going to be, it's still speculation, honestly. So that's something that is we'll see how it goes. And then on why does it seem that we have a lower mortality rate than what we have? If you actually calculate our mortality rate based on the number of confirmed cases, it's not exactly as low as we think. Yes, we have 201 deaths, but that is out of 7,100. If you compare, yes, US has about 90,000 deaths, but that is out of about 1 million cases. So if you actually look at the percentage, it's not as low as we think. But then again, there might be some, and these are the thoughts around some of the tests, the medications that have been tried. There are some thoughts around why it seems Africa is not dying from the illness as people had been predicting. There are some quick thoughts around maybe it's because almost every African has taken some level of anti-malaria drug, and it's been shown that these drugs have some effects on the virus. But that is all up in the air. We need to also understand that the coronavirus is in the class of the flu viruses, and flu is not really a problem in Africa. But all these are speculation. We can't really say for certain this is why our death cases are not as high as anticipated. I didn't get the last question, but I'm going to, Dia, if you did, please, if you can answer that. That's all right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so what he was asking about, it was about if I got it right, is that relationship between drinking cold water and the flu?
Yes.
I'm correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So now the thing is, if most flus are caused by bacterial organisms, yeah, cold water or drinking hot water will not cause any of those things. The pathogenesis or the origin of those infections are actually due to an organism, either a bacterial organism or a viral organism. All those are myths. So drinking cold water will not. Now, it is being said that cold water predisposes people or makes people more vulnerable to cold. Yeah, that is neither here or there, but that's what we've been. That's what most of us grew up to believe. So that's it. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you very much.
Okay, so you're welcome. Thank you for. So another question. Someone is asking, what is Senegal doing differently? Why can't Nigeria deploy the $1 test kit? Now, like I said, we don't want to go into conspiracy, political or financial. We are medical practitioners, and we don't have I don't have a reason. I don't know if or why the government has a reason for not deploying the $1 antibody test kit or antigen test kit, but we'll leave that for another time to discuss. So one of Dr. strategies for managing the COVID-19. Now the thing is that Dr. Ragton said, if I give Dr. Ragton, he will go from beginning to the end now. So I'm quickly running through the questions. So now, strategy for managing COVID-19 actually depends on what you are managing. It depends on the severity of the ailment. Just like how Dr. Chike said, there are people who are asymptomatic, there are people who have mild symptoms, and there are people who are severely ill. And different hospitals and different facilities have different treatment regimens. people use antivirals, some people use hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine, some people use immune boosters and all that. So it depends on the facility. Here in Nigeria, I can say I can state as a matter of fact, in the Landmark Center and the Infectious Disease Hospital in Yaba, the Unicon National Center, that what they are using, they are not disclosing, but I'm suspecting is hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and vitamin C. Yeah, so that is that. Okay, so Dr. Chidima, you here? I sometimes asking a question. I want to direct that question to Dr. Chidima. Admin, please, can you unmute Assumpta? She wants to ask a question. Can you unmute Assumpta? Okay. Something.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
So I want you to direct your question to Dr. Chidima, because I know that. Well, go ahead. Please ask your question.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Dr. Chidima. Good evening, everyone. My question is well centered at our children. Everyone is talking about preventive measures and how to take care of ourselves and all of that. But I'm not hearing, well, our children, where we have, there's rumor around school resumption soon. Now, I don't know how true that is, but I know that at some point this year, the children will have to go out and interact with others. And I don't think that you want to have a child. I don't think that children can wear a face mask for long. And then as parents, what can we do to actually keep them safe? One. Two, is it legal to test your staff for COVID-19? As for when work resumes, is it legal to test your staff for that? And is it also okay to test our children for COVID-19? I know that may sound paranoid, but I mean, I'm weighing up my options right now.
Dr. Chidima, please go ahead.
I don't think she's here. I can see Dr. Chidima left the room. She's probably having network issues.
Okay. So, Dr. Chike, is Dr. Chike there?
Very quick. Okay, yeah, I'm here. Thank you for your question. I think it's valid. I don't think we covered a lot about children at this point. The general consensus is that children develop a milder form of the illness, even though there have been some studies that some children have developed more severe illnesses. And yes, the current preventive measures are measures that you don't expect children to adhere to. So I'm going to answer your question, the question on the legality of testing your staff for COVID. There's no what they call it. No, there's nothing on that at this moment. Nobody has really looked at that because it's not even, the test is not easily available. Without going into the principles of, I know someone had asked about the $1 test in Senegal. There are different, without going into how difficult it is to actually have a fully functional test center. But at this point, there's nothing that covers the legality of testing staff before we do that. I do also want to say now that in Nigeria, that any form of testing by private practitioners that hasn't been certified by the NCDC is a bit OIO. So I don't know whether they're going to be able to start testing people based on based on people just want to be tested. About children, I know there's still nothing, there hasn't been any prescriptive things for children to do. The idea is because people have said, or because the evidence shows that children will develop a milder form of the illness, there isn't a lot of focus on what to do around children. Even for countries that have decided to open schools, they haven't really done much on how do you practice social distancing or wearing of face masks for children. So I'm really sorry, Dia and Razon can help, but there isn't a lot of guidance on how to manage children. And with the schools planning to open, we don't have a lot of guidance on that. Maybe with schools opening, WHO might come up with something to go around that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chike. I would have directed that question to Dr. Razon as a pediatrician.
Yes,
but
I
he
think
has
I
too
want
many
to
questions.
say
Wait,
I
what
want
do
to say
you want to
something.
say? Don't say anything. Don't say
No,
anything, sir.
please,
Don't say anything,
please.
sir.
I want to say something. You know,
You have too many questions. You have too many questions here already.
when someone plays into your domain, you want to help the person out in the thought level, at least decipher or maybe create a new way to knowledge towards what the person needs to know on a need to know basis.
Yeah, please go
thank
ahead.
you for your question. Let me go from basic principles. When a child is born and all that, there are some things that change from birth to adults. Now we know that this virus, will almost always attack the people that are immunocompromised, like Chike said. Now, truth be told, the geriatrics, that's the old guys, and the young guys, and the pediatric age groups are the extremes where you have immunocompromise in quotes. Now, for the pediatric age group, it is this simple. When we are born as human beings, you pick up some immune cells from your mom through breast milk and then through transfer through the placenta before birth. Subsequently, your system is challenged. And because it's the immune, the immunodeficiency in a child is not that he cannot or she cannot produce immune cells. It's just that they are still green. And you can imagine what green eagles will do when they are playing. They are more agile. So when you challenge them, they tend to go overboard and produce, immune cells to attack these organisms. Of course, from diarrhea to common cold, which we've already said is a COVID virus. So once you have some immune cells against even the common cold, you are perceived, in quote, perceived to have some level of immunity against that family, coronavirus. Am I clear? Are you understanding me? Santa, are you there?
She can hear. Okay.
Fine.
Okay.
So with that said, you will find out that the kids that will develop issues, just like Chike pointed out, because we still have diabetes in the child. We still have children with immunodeficiency syndromes. Now, their syndromes are even, more pronounced than the adults. You have them coming out with inability to produce antibodies. That's all the antibodies have either a pan situation or a selected situation. Now, if a child is unable to produce IgA, that's the one that lines the respiratory tract, the alimentary tract, it becomes an issue to fight these organisms. Okay? So the immunodeficiency will depend on what disease the child has. If he's a healthy child, for God's sake, he is better than the adult. He has not been challenged by heartbreaking issues or stress. All his energy or his immune system will be channeled towards fighting the cold virus. That's why they survive more. And perhaps that's why they come down. Maybe even if they are infected, they remain in the asymptomatic level. Just a few will now migrate to the mild, moderate to severe, and all whatnot. I hope I have, given you a clear idea. You can't stop children from playing. You can't stop them from mingling with each other. They have to come back home with some organisms that their system will fight. Okay?
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Dr.
let it not bother you. Let it not bother you. God got their back too.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Arinze. Okay, so admin, please, I would like you to unmute Uzo, and I would like her to direct her question to Dr. Chike. So, hello? Please unmute Uzo. I want her to direct her question. I would have asked it, but I want her to ask her question directly to Dr. Chike.
Hey, dear, I believe you mean Uzo. We have a couple of Uzos, but I've unmuted the Uzo that I think you are referring to. Uzo, go ahead.
Hello, Uzo, you here? Is she still here? Okay, she's here. She's here. So you're welcome.
We can move on to the next question if Uzo is not delivering. So I'll take.
Okay. Okay.
I know there's another Uzo that has a question, so let me just unmute. Maybe.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Hello.
Hi, Uzo. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
So this is Uzamaka Wamara Ninama. Okay, thanks to all the speakers. And I think my question is still a conversation from the last one. It's also with regards to children. So like we've said during the course of the conversation, this disease is the new one that keeps unfolding. Before, I think about a month ago, there's a new disease that has come up that's linked to the coronavirus in children. It's said to be like the Kawasaki-like disease, whereby you have a rare inflammatory infection in children, and this is it's said to be a delayed immune response to the virus. And if this is coming up just in less than 2-3 weeks, I actually had a relation who was admitted in hospital here, her daughter, 2 years old. It's new, it's coming up. We've just said now how that children are not really affected. Their immune system is more apt to deal with the virus, but this is something that's being observed, particularly in the UK and in the US. What do you have to say about this disease? And linking it again to the point about children going back to school. We have our children going to school in just over a week on the 1st of June. We have an option to say no, but what would your advice be? Again, thinking about this new disease, which is a delayed immune response to the virus coming up.
Dr. Chike, please go ahead.
Okay. Also, thanks for your question. I think, in all honesty, there can be a lot of decision has to still come from your personal perspective. I'm of the opinion that the reason why schools are being opened in countries like the UK is because parents do need to go back to work, and they need to find care centers for children to kind of care for children while the parents go back to work. So I think, in as much as we have a lot of advice or guidance of what people want to do, the decision is entirely in your hands. That's why when I was saying the general thought had been that children develop a mild form of the illness, but of recent the Kawasaki like disease has come up, and it's still a new. It's still something new. There is, honestly speaking, there isn't a lot of guidance that we can give based on what has been confirmed and what people know around that. And the only, I am struggling to say something definitive for that, but the point is for you to really weigh your options and see what really works for you. Like I said, the main driving force around countries deciding for children to go back to school, particularly in the UK, is because of parents being able to go back to work and then having to make sure that their younger kids go to school. And that's why the daycare centers are the first set of schools that they would want to open. But I don't have a lot of information on how that really applies. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Uzo, you don't sound happy.
You know, this is real. We have to make decisions. And yeah, I understand.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very distressing times, and I understand your point of view as a parent. And you know, it's just unfortunate that on this platform there's hardly anything we can do about it. And I'm also of the school of thought with Dr. Chike. Well, let me not. I think Dr. Amin said, Dr. Amin said, please, there's no time. People want to go to. Dr. Amin said, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Start now. Please unmute him. Please, I beg. Uzo, at least let Uzo. I need to hear what. I need to hear what Amisa wants to say so that Uzo. Okay, so Amisa, go ahead.
Am I on? Okay, fine. Uzo, good day, ma'am. Just in addition,
I know doctors, you guys have the professional advice and then personal advice. I don't mind having both.
Okay. Oh,
Uzo, now, you are just giving Arinze a jail pass to give us another lecture. No, Arinze, don't do that. Arinze, don't do that.
No, I'll try my best not to.
No,
this is just like a follow-up to what Assunta is asking. In her own case, she actually zeroed it down to the Kawasaki-like disease that is ongoing now in the UK. By me, the understanding of the Kawasaki disease is still an outpouring of an exaggerated immune reaction to a minor twist to what do you call it? The way individuals respond to viral infections. Are you getting me? So basically, what I'm trying to say is that this thing is individualized. You either find out whether this child usually has what? An exaggerated cold, when every other person is just having a minor cold. Or does this child also have any of these immune compromised states? So going back to school is very essential at this point. Why? Because if they don't, we're going to run into a problem, a lag in education. That is even worse than what you're going to face as COVID. Believe you me, herd immunity is going to come on just like Chike had, proposed. On the long run, you'll find out that everybody will be okay because of what Chike said about herd immunity. Now, if you keep on staying indoors, I don't know, it was Imeda posted one video where an elderly doctor was saying something about we stay indoors, we keep to a particular environment, we don't interact with the other, with the outside environment. Once you come out, everybody's going to fall sick. That is just it. That's the controversy. Let me just put it that way. But the doctor has a point. If your immune system is not constantly challenged by the environmental factors, by the organisms in your environment, you lose protection. And then the way you respond to a new or maybe a re-exposure will be different. Of course, by that time, these bugs would have become hungrier, in quotes, and they will come up to you more aggressively. I get that. So, Uzo, please, if the first thing to do is, study each child or each of your children to know what is their peculiarities. As a mom, the mothers are the first doctors in the home. So you get to know what this child reacts to. You get to know whether he can sleep in a rugged environment and all that. Those ones that are more challenged are the ones that you may express some caution with. Remember, there are still old remedies like that steaming that really still works. Don't throw away all those old school stuff because they still work. I mean, people survived even before we started identifying organisms under the microscope. So what is going on? We're now too skeptical because we know more. That is the problem. Now, when you know more, your fears will go off the roof. I think I've done some justice that I wouldn't want to.
I think you have. So we've taken everybody's time. So now, admin, please, can you unmute Chisom? Let her quickly ask a question, please.
Yes, can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, we can. You're welcome. Please, just throw your question to the floor, and I'll choose somebody. I may not choose Raglan again.
Okay, I have two questions now, and Dr. Arinze will have to answer one, yes or no, actually.
Yes, we don't have a choice. Well, we'll give him detention if he passes.
First question is,
please go ahead.
For someone who has tested positive, what medication, what kind of palliative should the person can help the person at least manage the situation since it doesn't have a cure. And secondly, if a nursing mother tests positive, can she continue to breastfeed? I mean, if the baby is about 5 or 6 months, can she continue to breastfeed and look after her child?
Okay, so now your first question, I don't know if I should give Dr. Arinze, because the second question, which is actually O&G related and is very close to my field, I can answer that. But Dr. Arinze, who should I give now? Dr. Arinze.
I wanted somebody who does obstetrics and pediatrics to answer the breastfeeding one. The other one, anybody can answer it.
Lord, I think you can answer the question on breastfeeding. Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. But look, Arinze, you're pressing your phone. No? Did you hear the first question? She has been muted again. Admin. Okay, Chike, I think you should go ahead. Answer the question about someone who has symptoms. Are there any treatment palliatives or treatment?
Who tests positive, yeah.
Okay, someone who tested positive. Any treatment palliatives? Yeah, or protocol. Okay. Please go ahead.
So my question is going to be, first of all, let me say thank you to Uzo for giving us the permission to speak both as a professional and on a personal level. So I'm going to answer professionally, and then I'm going to answer personally. Professionally,
1 minute. 1 minute.
Absolutely, you're taking my minute as well. Professionally, there is nothing definitive that I can tell you to take now that is known, but some suggestive therapies have been hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine. Again, the challenge with that is that I can't tell you the particular dose that you can take. I can't tell you on this medium what particular dose that you can take. But the general guidance is to boost your immunity by taking supplements that can drive your immunity. Make sure that your feeding is as you're eating a balanced diet, so that you have some sort. As like the general idea is to give your body enough things that it needs to be able to fight the infection. And so that's what I would really say. Of my own personal opinion, I think chloroquine it's really more effective during the early days of the infection. So it also depends on when you were exposed and how effective that it can be. If we've gotten to the stage where you have a cytokine storm, it's really how your body responds to that. A lot of intervention is before the virus starts replicating starts multiplying in the respiratory tract. So it's a bit neither here nor there. That's my own personal opinion. If you've tested positive, if you've tested positive, you can take supplements that boost your immune system, take nutrition that boosts your immune system. At this point, particularly in Nigeria, there seems to be some potential for chloroquine, but that's I'm not saying that with any strong conviction. Okay, I can't answer the question. I can't answer the question as in on breastfeeding. So I'm leaving that to Lolade and
Okay, no. I'll do the one on breastfeeding. So now the thing is, adding to what Dr. Chike said earlier, there's no evidence-based journal that has actually given us a thesis that this will work, because different facilities all over the world are using different treatment modalities. So from immunomodulation to azithromycin to hydroxychloroquine to the antivirals, it depends on the facility and how bad the individual is. Because they put some people on ventilators and they've done all that. So I think I follow Dr. Chike's school of thought also. So concerning breastfeeding and pregnant women, now there are no studies that say that the virus can be transmitted or vertical transmission between mother and child. So the problem there now depends on how healthy or how clinically stable the mother is. If the mother is clinically stable or fit enough to breastfeed, please, why not? But if she's not, she needs to look for a way. Yeah, they need to look for a way to provide or get breast milk from the mother, either by doing some form of breast pump, or they just switch to formula. But if the individual doesn't know, there's no harm. Well, I don't know if anybody else has a different school of thought or a different pattern. But clinically, we don't have any literature to say that you should remove or isolate a pregnant woman or a woman who just gave birth from her child. Because in ONG, everything. Come again?
I said, off my head, I'll say, well, you see, the thing is, let me put it this way. If you liken it to what we do for the HIV-infected mothers, the mothers with TB and hepatitis B, because these are just organisms, basically. Now, what are the essential needs of the child? Are they met without breastfeeding? Can this woman, cope with the alternative, which is formula? Now, if she can cope with that, well, you can advise her to. But speaking in the Nigerian context, the answer is no. Most of the women cannot afford to buy a tin of milk every 3 days. Now, none is almost what, 4,000. 3 days, you buy another one. Come on, who's going to pay for that? So the essential thing is a woman who is infected already will certainly mount some level of immune response towards the virus, no matter how small. Now, if she remains asymptomatic, it means she's winning until she becomes severely ill. That means the replication and everything has overwhelmed her system. Okay. Until then, the child will benefit from that breast milk.
Okay.
Okay,
so that's it.
Yes, I can hear.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Is that all right?
Yes, I heard. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you are the professional, so I'll take your word for it.
Okay, Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So, admin, I think just 2 more questions and we can end it. We've taken longer than we planned. So I think, please unmute Ekena Neke. Let him ask his question. Ime goes next, then I think we'll just round up. Francis.
I think Ekena Neke might have left the room, so
I hope he's not angry. I hope he's not angry.
We've definitely gone beyond time, so I would understand. Yeah. I would say the next question should be Igwe's question. So.
Okay, please go. Let him go ahead. Let him go ahead.
Thank you guys for your wonderful talk. Chike, quick one. Oh, no, sorry, Dr. Chizima. Or is it Chike? You said something about semen and COVID. So are you, because what comes to mind are you saying COVID is now an STI?
Dr. Chike, are you there?
You're all wrong.
Because if you say it can be transferred through semen.
Dr. Chike.
And I mean, wow, he's begging pepper soup.
Okay. So now,
so that's
can I answer
then
on his
two.
behalf?
Yeah, you can, but two.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, everybody's talking about the vaccine for COVID. And we know COVID is in the league of the normal flu, coronavirus and all that. But COVID is also similar to, from the pathophysiology that Sarenze did this morning, COVID is similar to HIV in the sense that it attacks the RNA, right? So even if there's and we know one of the things that affects the reason why there's no vaccine yet for HIV is that because it keeps, changing, mutating and all that. So if there's a vaccine for COVID, is it going to be a commercially viable vaccine? Because we know these guys are in it for the money after the public health angle. No. Are they going to be able to make a vaccine that Africa would afford? Because the vaccine, the flu keep mutating the same way normal influenza does. What's the outlook for that? Then the third one, Chike, you said that our testing strategy in Nigeria is largely hooked on people being symptomatic, but that's what's happening all around the world. For now, nobody tests you in most parts of the world unless you are showing, unless you feel you have symptoms, which you wouldn't know unless you start showing something. So that's not different from what's obtainable in other parts of the world. So why is that different for you? Thanks.
Okay, so I'll quickly go. I'll go around this very quickly. So there are literatures or there are journals that have said that some scientists tested people who were actually positive or people who had recovered from COVID-19, and they found the virus in the semen. Now, nothing is conclusive, I can tell you for free, because if it is, they would have placed it, they would have put it in the ICD-10 or whatever category classification of infectious diseases that it is there. So whatever it is that we're seeing now, everybody's coming up with all sorts, that it affects the liver, it affects the, so we are just still trying to, whatever Dr. Chike put up on that slide was what he got from references from WHO, from CDC, from Joint American Medical Journal and all that. So we've not, here in Nigeria, nobody's doing any research. Nobody's doing anything concerning research or autopsies and all that. So those are based on the facts that scientific guides or scientific facts that we have gathered over time. Yeah, that is that. Now, the vaccine, whether we like it or not, I don't want anybody to answer that question about vaccines. And my reason being that vaccines at this point is there are too many conspiracy theories about it, about Bill Gates wanting to do the quantum dot tattoo, about people wanting to do a patent so they can keep on immunizing people, 8 billion people every year so that they can get the money. The HIV vaccine is not yet in full. They are still working on it because the pattern or the pathophysiology or the pathogenesis of the HIV structure or the way it affects people is actually different. Yeah. So now for the vaccine, for the COVID-19 vaccine, there are a lot of speculation. Before you do a vaccine, Dr. Chike explained that earlier, that it has to go through phases. Nobody can wake up in the morning and say, I have the cure, I have the vaccine to this, and because you need to do clinical trials, which they have started. And it's a pandemic. A lot of people are going back and forth on this vaccine issue. Yeah. So lastly, on testing, there's also a lot of conspiracy about testing. There are people in Tanzania who said they tested pawpaw and tested, the president actually said he tested pawpaw and tested sheep and tested white cloth, and he found out that the test result came out positive. The test they are testing they are doing here is the PCR real-time PCR testing. In America, they are doing the PCR real-time testing and the antibody testing. The antibody testing is to determine how many people have developed either IgG or IgM antibodies and people who are negative. Now, a lot of politics, a lot of issues are going on about who is testing, who is not testing, why are they not testing, why are they testing in Senegal, why are they not testing in Nigeria. I don't think anybody on this platform has the answer to that, unless the person is related to Dr. Fauci or related to Donald Trump. Yeah? So we're trying as much as possible to keep it as medical. You know, what we want to do is we want to use the little information that we have to improve the quality of life of everybody on this group. And I don't know if that answers your question, Tikena.
Yeah, thanks. So for now, COVID is not an STI.
For now, it's not. If it is, they will tell us.
Thanks.
They'll put it in the ICD-10 and they'll tell us. All right. Thank you very much. So, Francis, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We have, by my count, we have 3 questions. I know that we are way ahead of time, way behind time, and I would just, yep, we've exhausted our time limits. what I would suggest is for the 3 questions, I would unmute the 3 participants and let them just ask their questions and make it as brief as possible. So when I say the 3 participants, I'm talking about Ime, Kujo, and Quest. So I'm going to unmute the 3 of them. They ask the questions, and then we can just take it from there.
Francis, that combination, those 3 individuals, I'm afraid of them at the same time. Okay, please. So go ahead.
All right, I'm doing that now.
Okay. Ime? John?
Okay, so dear, you've actually answered my question, but I actually wanted Chike to chip in a bit on it about the test kits. So it's about the test kit. So Senegal is in this $1 test kit, and it's not something that Nigeria could just adopt very quickly and get as many people tested, so we can have real life data of what actually is happening in Nigeria. Why can't Nigeria just do that? Chike.
Okay, so let me answer that. So there are a lot of things that Nigeria wants to do and Nigeria cannot do. There are a lot of, like I said, this is not a political platform. It's a medical platform. The $1 test kit, if the health minister or the NCDC director general doesn't agree to that test kit, it doesn't fly. If it doesn't make money, so I don't want to be a part of all the messy talk about them generating funds and all that. Now there are different tests. Like I said earlier, antigen, antibody. There's real-time PCR and there's antibody test kits. So what you want to test for, the particular country or the health institution responsible for testing needs to be on the same page with you before they can agree. So if Senegal is doing it, they feel Senegal is not doing the right thing. They do what they like. That's why. So to adopt it, not a problem. But do they want to do it? That's the question. So could you please ask your question?
All right.
Can I go ahead? Okay, Kujo is there.
My question is for Dr. Chike. Very nice presentation. Very quick. I mean, Dr. Dia, you've spoken about the test kits. My question is on the test kits, because when you look at what's going on, I know we don't want to go into the political aspects of these issues, but on the polymerized chain reaction, like the PCR you spoke about, I just want to, and this question maybe is for Dr. Chike or you. What's your personal opinion? How sustainable is this mode of testing? We know that the antibody test tells us the proportion of the population that has been affected. And when Dr. Chike was on his presentation, he said something about Nigeria, not really having a clear strategy, but kind of tending towards the herd immunity strategy. When you look at medical history, you get an impression that when the herd immunity strategy is being followed, it aligns best with antibody testing. So why I say it's a personal question is, like, what do you forecast, as a doctor? And I'm not going to hold you accountable to your response. What do you forecast? Do you feel at some point these antibody tests? That's the first question. And then secondly, the antibody tests available within the country. Do you feel we have enough test kits available? Or do you think it will be a very good business opportunity? I know it's not a financial discussion here, but if we say we're aligning with the herd immunity, it means that there's a possibility that we will have to switch from this very cumbersome PCR testing to antibody testing. And if we switch from PCR testing to antibody testing, it means that we will need antibody test kits. And then look, from your experience as a doctor, in circulation now, do you feel we have a lot of those test kits available? Thanks.
Okay. So let me quickly run. Personally, whether we like it or not, in this part of the world, the herd immunity is going to eventually have to suffice, and the reason will be that a lot of people are not doing what they're meant to do. They're not socially distancing themselves. They're not washing their hands. Some people don't even have insight. Insight is when you know that you have a problem and you need help. Some people think that this virus is from 5G. Some people think that it's for the rich people. Now, the thing is that I have tested people antibody, I have tested people PCR. I would not want to go in between which one is more specific, or which one is more sensitive, or which one is more accurate. But the thing is, with the herd immunity, that was what the UK and Boris Johnson was trying to achieve. Was trying to get at least 70% of the population to get the infection, develop some form of antibodies that protects them from eventually the infection. But now, this is how it goes. I think that eventually, we are all going to get the virus. You're asking me for personal, so I think Francis can stop recording at this point. Let me say what I want to say. There's a likelihood that we'll all get this virus and we will develop our own immunity. But one thing is important. The virus is not about you. It's not about me. It's about those who are immunocompromised. It's about those who the other question about antibody testing kits. Yes, it's going to be a very good source of financial sustainability. But my problem is that in this country, everybody wants to look for fast money. So when they were talking about the antibody test kit, a lot of people were actually converting HIV and malaria rapid test kits and turning them into COVID-19 test kits, and they were selling them. Yeah, and NAFDAC, US FDA, Korean FDA, European conformity, all these guys have laid down guidelines on how to get appropriate test kits. But you know how things go in this country, everybody wants to go around and do it the other way around. So you might decide to invest in the antibody test kit, but if there is no longer essential demand, the prices are going to crash. So if you bought a pack of 25 pieces for $1,000, there's a chance that when everybody brings into the market, instead of selling one test kit for 15,000 naira or doing one test kit for 15,000 naira, you may have to do it for 5,000 or 2,000 naira. So that's my point. That's my own personal take. I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah.
Can I just say?
All right. Sorry, can I go on now?
Okay.
No. Dr. Chike, you want to say something?
Yeah, let me just say something quickly
Sorry.
about my own personal opinion about the testing, right? I understand a lot of people are agitating about the testing, but my own personal opinion is that in the management of the disease, the testing doesn't really do a lot of, it's not priority if you are going to ask me, because the line of management is going to be very similar if you have the illness or you don't have the illness. The major interventions are done when your illness develops serious complications. And if your illness develops serious complications, then there's no point really testing you. So the whole issue around why we're not testing more people, you have to decide where you need to pump in your resources. At the moment, Nigeria as a country, we have limited resources, and we should actually be pumping in our resources into getting people to adopt the positive behaviors I want them to adopt in terms of like providing palliatives. That's my own personal opinion, because at this moment, if you do get positive, the line of management is not exactly so different. However, I appreciate that we need more testing for us to be able to plan how to manage our economy or how we come out of the whole lockdown and how we decide to push things forward. So I see there's value in that. Lorde has already mentioned about the politics or the economics of pushing RNA versus antibody testing. In the long run of whether we're trying to push for herd. So let me just say this categorically, nobody has come out to say actively that what they are pushing for is herd immunity, because of the ethics that involve in trying to say, oh, we're pushing for herd immunity, because you need to explain, if you're pushing for herd immunity, what's the target number of people that is an acceptable loss? And that's not a question anybody can answer without ethical implications. So nobody can come out and say our plan is to push for herd immunity, so let's start doing antibody testing because we are pushing for herd immunity. So it's a bit neither here nor there. I'd rather say that we should push for push for more into research and doing palliatives to get people to do the right thing. And let me just say, please, I know Lolly said nobody's researching, that they're actually doing quite a number of research as in currently as we go on. But
in Nigeria,
yes, they are. Yes, in Nigeria.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was not aware. I'm sorry, my bad. I take it back. I was not aware of that. So okay, so it's 10. Dr. Chike, thank you very much for your response. And it's 10:30, but we need to answer. Okay, you may please ask your question because they are planning to unmute all of us at the same time now.
All right. Nice one, guys. Very lovely one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. You guys did a fantastic job putting this together and being very explanatory in your discourse and also very incisive and insightful. But quick one, Dr. Chidinma, I have a question, quick one. On the lighter notes, you're talking about managing the stress that comes with all of the pandemic and all whatnot. And you mentioned the community. I was really interested in that aspect. Anyway, you know, I maintain a small community. Is a yes or no answer? I hope you are part of that community, Dr. Chidinma. That's my question for you. Then secondly, yes, there was a lot of talk about getting ventilators at the earlier stages anyways, when the talks about Africa probably not having enough ventilators, and it might come to a case where Africa becomes a walking graveyard and people are just waiting to die by the second because we did not have ventilators. But as it turns out, the records from what we have, yeah, we can argue with the number of tests being done, right? We can argue about that and all, but the record actually shows that Africa has really had no need for ventilators like the Western world has. Is there a particular reason why this is so? In one other article I read, a certain doctor mentioned that probably because of some immunization, BCG and all whatnot that Africans tend to take as infants or toddlers or babies, the immune system was built and has been fortified against diseases of viruses such as this. Could it be the case why Africa has not had much need for ventilators as was previously touted? Because as it seems, I don't see much talk about ventilators in Africa. Let's just say in Nigeria, for instance. I mean, if that were to be the case, we know what would have been by now. So is there a reason why this is so, why we're not having this so much talk about ventilators anymore?
Okay, so answering your question, you made the first question you asked. It sounded like you were directing it particularly at Dr. Chidinma. If she's part of that community. Yeah, so I'm answering on her behalf now. I'm sure she's part of that community. Yeah, so I'm sure she's doing a couple of things. So secondly, answering your ventilator question. Now the thing is, like I said, when we started the assembly, we were actually warned by the admin that we should not discuss anything about conspiracy theories. But I need to say this. In the US, when a patient is admitted for COVID-19, the hospital is being given about $19,000. And if a patient is put on ventilator, the hospital is being given about $39,000 to $40,000 US. Now, what we are doing in this country, whether we like it or not, personal take, I don't know what Dr. Chike is expert, public health expert. What we are doing is copy and paste. We are copying what they are doing. We don't need ventilators here. In the IDH center in Yaba, yeah, in the isolation center in Nonikon, in the isolation center in Landmark, Lagos State bought ventilators that they didn't use. And 85% of people who go on that ventilator eventually don't make it. Now, the thing is, well, people call it spiritual, people call it for religious reasons, for whatever reason, we are not dying the way, irrespective of the fact that we lack the proper leadership, irrespective of the fact that we are joking about COVID-19 on social media, irrespective of the fact that we don't have the appropriate healthcare management management systems. Italy has the first best management health system in the whole world. Yeah, we don't have any structure here, and it looks like we're not dying the way we should die. Now, look at what is happening in Kano. So there's a likelihood that people are dying, like in Kano. The ARD, the Association of Resident Doctors, they said that the 614 people that died, the number they actually put forward, it was actually 6,000 people, and they didn't have where to bury them. I'm not in Kano, so but when you hear things like this from other WhatsApp groups and other platforms, you begin to wonder what is happening. So the issue of the ventilator now, if you look at the background, you see the diagram that, or the 3D animation of what is being there. These large things are the alveoli. The alveoli is actually being damaged when you have a severe case of COVID-19. What the ventilator does is an intubated patient is being given administered oxygen and the carbon dioxide is being taken out. But what the alveoli does is that the alveoli takes the oxygen, then exchanges the oxygen for carbon dioxide, like is what is on your screen now. But if this alveoli doesn't do that again because of fluid buildup or there's a collapse, the ventilator is of no use. So people are saying that there's this machine called ECMO. I don't know if you've not heard of the ECMO, but nobody's saying anything about that. But even in this country, it has not gotten to that. If you notice, people who are losing their lives in this country to COVID-19 are people who are actually immunocompromised or people who are elderly because their immune system is either dysfunctional or is not optimal, if I can put it that way. Does not answer your question, because the ventilation thing is just I will not call it a scam, but we don't need ventilators yet. Yeah. So like I said, we are doing copy and paste. Whatever they are doing, they are easing lockdown in the UK. We are easing lockdown here. We don't know what they're doing. They are closing churches here. So we are just following what they are doing. Well, so everybody has protocols. There are standard guidelines, protocols that people follow, and I think that's what people at NCDC, the Lagos State, federal government, and I hope we get it right. But I think there is some form of support. So personally, I will tell you that whether anybody agrees with me, the temperature now is in favor of Africans. Now, what I will say is, people will say what's happening in Brazil, what's happening in Iran. Our lifestyle also matters. Yeah. I want to use this opportunity to answer Kingston Barr's question about how long this virus stays on surfaces. The virus is very, very fragile. In temperate regions, that's abroad. Yeah. The virus, it's been documented that the virus can stay as long as a few days. I don't know about when Ragnar was saying a few weeks. I don't know about a few weeks and a few days. I think about a few days. But research that they did in the US states that the virus stays for about 5 minutes when there is ultraviolet light. That is the sun. That is one. Two, with spraying with Lysol, sodium hypochlorite and all that, and decontaminating yourself, it stays for 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. Those are researches you don't throw away. And those guys cannot come on that pulpit, on that American, with the American flag and come and give us wrong information. I hope that helps. Ime? Hello?
In addition to what you said, dear.
He has muted.
In addition to what you said,
muted.
dear.
Yeah.
In addition to what you said, first things first, I don't know whether, the microbiology aspect, the virologists in Nigeria have actually tried to look at the strain you have in the country. I mean, that solves.
Okay, so I think, Raxon, I think on this junction, let us round up. Me and you will sit down and talk about this thing, because I need you to do some things for me, sincerely.
No.
So on behalf of the whole team, on behalf of the 97 Assembly, I want to use this opportunity to thank everybody who was a part. We've recorded a very huge turnout, and I'm sure that people have learned one or two things. I'm sorry. I also need to use the opportunity to apologize to those who wanted to ask questions or people who were not satisfied with the questions that they asked and we didn't answer appropriately. I promise that we will come again and do this most probably the right way. Maybe with only Ragzone will present, answer all the questions, and you will just give us the lecture. So at this junction, I would want to say that this class and this assembly, the second edition of this assembly has been over. So we can now say the grace and whatever it is we want to say. I want to before I go, I want to say a very big thank you to the organizers of this thing. Yeah, like I said, for record purposes, the maiden edition, I had to watch, it was 2 hours and I had to watch it 2 or 3 times. I have learned how, if you guys hear that I am in Richmond tomorrow, know that it was as a result of the maiden edition. I picked something there and I am tweaking it one way or the other. So if you hear that I'm a billionaire tomorrow, just know that it was as a result of what I learned from here. So I wish you guys a very good night, and I hope we do this very soon. Thank you very much. Have a good night rest.